So we have a question from Shreyash Ji.
My question, I mean not a question, but if you could also if you could shed light on, effects of Kali Yuga in our lives. How can we stay sane in this dark ages? If you could touch base upon Raja Parikshit and all the story, which from where the Kali Yuga starts, the end of Treta Yuga and Kali Yuga, and all of that, and basically how all of us can just move towards a higher space in these dark ages.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's relevant. We're in Kali Yuga. It so happens. I'm not so good with remembering all the details of Puranic histories, but I can say something. And of course, the main point is the progressive aspect of things, right? And of course, we can say something on that based on our Guru's words. Of course, everybody here already knows these things, but just for the sake of a complete discussion, we can zoom out. The Vedas talk about these 4 ages, right? Satya, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali. By the influence of the mundane environment, every age is progressively more degraded, right? And so here we find ourselves now in this Kali Yuga, which is the age of quarrel, right? This Kali comes from the word kalaha, which means quarrel. And one thing that we find in the Vedic tradition and Vedic teachings is that everything has a personal aspect, right? And so Kali, he also has a personified existence, right, as a person. And so we hear that, and obviously there was some transition period, right, between the 2 ages, right? So actually there was some, I don't know why, but in this cycle, in this Chatra Yuga of 4 ages, there was actually a switch, because Dwapar actually is referring to 2, right? So normally Dwapar Yuga is the 2nd age, and Treta is 3, is the 3rd age. But for whatever reason, there was a switch. So Dwapar Yuga was the age preceding this Kali Yuga. And I believe it's meant, when I recall, some of you can remember better, that Lord Krishna's leaving this world, that heralded the end of Dwapar Yuga and the beginning of the end, you could say, or the beginning of Kali Yuga. Yesterday we were remembering, when in these 4 sittings of Bhagavatam, because that was also a part of Bhagavatam coming in this world. Bhagavatam came at this period, right, in this transition, and part of the idea of Bhagavatam is that there's one beautiful verse in Bhagavatam, saying that in this dark age, Srimad Bhagavatam has come like the rising sun, right, to give, with all of its, because it's 18,000 verses, right? So with this sun with 18,000 rays, has risen in this dark age to give light to these people, right? And we hear of those sages who all gathered, just before the 4th sitting of Bhagavatam. Then there are all these sages who gathered. What can we do, to save this age, and counteract the darkness of this age. So anyhow, so then we hear, right, Maharaj Parikshit, right, and so this would have been before he received this curse to die, right, that he was refusing to. I don't remember the details. Maybe someone else remembers more details. But Maharaj Parikshit, he's such a powerful, pious king, ruler, and so he was trying to stop Kali from having any presence at all, right? And then finally the personality of Kali came in and begged, I need somewhere, like I'm also a person, I need somewhere to have shelter, right? But what was the story of the cow? Do you remember, Didi? The cow representing each of its legs represent the 4 legs of Dharma. Does anyone remember that?
He was breaking the last leg.
That's right. That Kali was like breaking those legs, and Parikshit Maharaj came and stopped him. Right. There was some incident like that, and then these 4 pillars of Dharma. I don't know if any of us can remember them. Truthfulness, cleanliness, non-violence, ahimsa. That's separate, right? Maybe, can you have your phone on? No. Yeah, that would be nice, because each of these 4 pillars, they also correspond. Compassion. Compassion is one. They correspond to the 4 regulative principles.
The 4 legs.
Yeah, the 4 legs of the cow. Yeah, if you look, the 4 pillars of Dharma, Parikshit Maharaj, if you Google that.
Mercy, truthfulness, austerity, and cleanliness.
Austerity, that's the other one, yeah. So compassion or mercy, cleanliness, honesty or truthfulness, and austerity. Right. So right, there was this incident when the personality of Kali is breaking all these legs of Dharma, and then Parikshit comes and stops him, and then Kali's also begging for mercy, like I need a place, I need a home. And so then Parikshit Maharaj tells him that you can reside in these, actually it's 5, right? We normally say 4, but you've heard it's actually 5, right? Of meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, intoxication, and then gold, right? And gold is actually said to be the most dangerous, because through gold all the others come. Everything comes through gold, right? And yeah. So then this is given, right, in this age, that if you can avoid these 5 things, then and we can also add, right, Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, he didn't emphasize the 5th one so much because his principle was yukta vairagya, right? That and you've heard that term by now. Wow, look at you, huh? He knows everything. Like our principle is not to renounce, but rather to engage, right? To use everything in the service of the Lord. And so it's not, but it's a dangerous thing, right? Because if we're not using wealth for that higher purpose, then it will drag us down. Yeah. So we have to remember that, be careful. Then we saw our Gurudev was very careful, with all these things. And if money came from a dirty place, like some donation, he either wouldn't want to accept it, or he would be careful in precisely how it was used, But anyway, that's another discussion. So then this is how these regulations came about, right? That if we can avoid, these are like 4 repositories of the energy of Kali. Right? The energy of Kali is living in a concentrated way in these 5 places. And so if we can avoid these things, then we can also avoid the influence of Kali. Right? Our Gurudev, though, once he was talking about this, and he said, but actually, finally, Kali has spread everywhere. It's in the atmosphere, it's in the environment, this energy.
Even consciousness.
Yes. And so, it's not a matter of simply strictly following these things. Of course, we will think that that energy is existing in a very concentrated way in these places, but it is everywhere in the environment. And also through association, it's difficult to avoid, right? We have to mix at times with all kinds of people. Just seeing adverts or seeing things on television or newspaper, we're mixing with all these things, So then we have to focus on the positive aspect, right? What are the positive aspects? What are the positive ways of overcoming this energy? Of course, the principal way is through Harinam, right? This is the special gift of this age. This is a very potent method of connection in this age, right? Connecting with our Lord, Jai Shri Gauranga Sundarji, of awakening our own inner, pure and spiritual. You look very uncomfortable.
No, I want to make myself habitual to sitting down, because if I stop completely, it's going to just jam my...
You just have a block.
Yeah, blocks help a lot.
Just because no one's meant to sit like that.
Yeah, it's not good for anybody, actually, yeah.
Something
The hips have to be higher
These
than
two.
the knees.
Yeah, your hips have
Try
to be
one.
higher than your knees.
So we're trying to take shelter, actually, and this material flow is always running one direction, but then the divine flow is also running, and so we're very fortunate. We're given this grant of Harinam in this age. We can always mentally, verbally, congregationally, or singly, we can try to take shelter of Harinam. And we can also see, how actually feeling the darkness of this age, it can push us to take more shelter. Like, oh, Krishna, hey, Govinda, oh, Mahaprabhu, please protect me, right? It can actually be more conducive for Sharanagati. Right? So Harinam is there, and also Kirtan, it also has a wider connotation of meaning, right? Kirtan really means praise, glorification of the Absolute. And so it also includes the divine stream that has come from our gurus, Harikatha. That is also an expression of Kirtan. And there's one very nice statement of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He says that the more the teachings of Bhakti Vinod are propagated in this world, the more the influence of Maya will be checked. He says like that, That preaching. Saraswati Thakur in one place, he says Kirtan means a fight, right? Kirtan means a fight, because with this message of the prema dharma, exclusive surrender, devotion, all these teachings of pure devotion, they're actually clashing with so many materialistic conceptions of this world, right? And so Saraswati Thakur says that Kirtan means a fight, right? It's not just some, people talk about Kirtan bringing them peace, and all these things, but there's a very active and dynamic element. It's not an aggressive fight, but it's, we're standing for good, we're standing for beauty, and that must clash with the ideals of selfishness and so on, right? So there will be a fight between love and hate, right? They both promote different ideals, right? So by tuning in, right, by exposing ourselves to the stream, and also by trying to share that with others as much as possible too, right? And in that way, purifying our atmosphere, it's very nice to see here, it's been maybe 15 years now since this temple is here, and you see how, more and more people are coming in the neighborhood, and and a whole like favorable environment has been created, you know, surrounding the temple. It's very beautiful to see, you know. So, you know, we want to try and live like that as individuals as well. We stand for truth, right? We conduct ourselves according to these principles, and that will create an atmosphere around us, you know. And people, there will be, you know, anyone with any goodness in them, they will be able to appreciate that, you know. They will be uplifted by that, you know. There will be some positive reciprocation. So yes, I mean, and see, another thing to remember too is that, and this is quite an important concept, but it can be tricky to understand, that there's the saguna plane and there's the nirguna plane, right? You're familiar with these terms, right? It's your language, right? So saguna is referring to this material plane of the mundane modes of nature, right? Sattva, rajas, tamas, right? Goodness, passion, ignorance. And this energy of Kali is a part of that saguna world, right? But then trumping that is always the nirguna plane, the transcendental plane. And that's a plane that is categorically different, right? So even though this age, you know, from a relative point of view, we can say this is a dark age, right? Or Satya Yuga, that was the time to be alive, right? It's actually all part of the same thing, right? Yeah, Satya Yuga is in the mode of goodness, right? And this age is in the modes of passion and ignorance. And so, you know, we really got the short end of the stick. But that's actually a relative view, because compared to what nirguna is, all of this is more or less the same. It's still part of the, it's like in a dream, right? Your good dream, bad dream, it's all still a dream, right? And so then the devotees, they have the vision that actually this is the best stage. Someone asked Srila Sridhar Maharaj this question once, you know, that, oh, it would have been really nice to be alive in Satya Yuga. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, actually, you have to judge the value of an age according to its theistic the level of theistic revelation, right? What knowledge, what awareness of divinity was available in that age. He said, actually, you know, in Satya Yuga, it's all Brahman conception. That was predominantly the focus and the understanding. You know, a very hazy, distant, remote connection. All the yogis, what is it that they're, you know, aspiring to enter? They're aspiring to enter into Brahman, right? Paramatma darshan, and then ultimately Brahman, right? So, yeah, relatively speaking, that's all very nice. It's all very clean. It's all very, you know, shanti and all these things. But that's still part of the temporary flow of this world. What is really the intrinsic need and desire of our soul, and what is our intrinsic identity, that hasn't been addressed. That's not addressed. But in this age, in Kali Yuga, you know, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come, he's come with the greatest gift of divine love. You know, he's opened the door to a loving relationship with the personal expression of divinity, of Sri Krishna, you know, where the distilled essence of the message of the Vedas, that's all been made very clear. This type of knowledge was not available, you know, in previous ages. And so from that perspective, this is actually the best age, you know, because we've been given this very, you know, clear line of practice and clear conception of the goal, right? And you know, going to that, speaking of the practice, you know, this practice of Harinam Sankirtan, it is such a simple and accessible and universal practice. You know, it's not that we have to, have such great capacity of knowing or doing certain things, or be able to do elaborate rituals or deep meditation, but it's something very natural and simple. So this very simple, and there's that verse in Bhagavatam that we always remember in this regard, right? Kalir dosha nidera yasti heko mahanguna kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta sangha paramvrajat. That this age of Kali, it is full of dosh, right? It is full of faults, full of problems. It's so degraded. But Mahanguna has one very great quality, that kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta sangha paramvrajat, that simply through this practice of Krishna kirtan, right, we can attain our highest destination. Such simplicity of practice and such high goal has been given, right? And relating to the deepest need of our deepest self. So it is actually a very, from that perspective, it is actually, from a relative perspective, in terms of the Saguna plane, yes, it is a dark age, it is a troublesome age, very much. But if we see from the absolute perspective, from a higher perspective, in terms of our eternal nature as eternal souls and our eternal need, is actually the greatest time. It is the best time. Because this great gift and opportunity, this doorway, it has been opened for us. It is, one way you can see it is like because we're the most desperate people, this great mercy has been given. Right? It is like in a hospital, the emergency patients will get the most attention, right? That they're going to bring out, the best medicine, the best doctors, because they're about to die. They're in a really bad state, right? Whereas the others, they'll go on, they'll be okay, But no, we got to give them all the attention. So that is an aspect of it too. So, yes, and overall, I think, we don't have to worry too much, about, saving ourselves from the energy of Kali. Our main focus is actually devotion, right? And our relative environment, that may change, right? At different times in our lives. According to our karma, right? According to higher will, many things in our life will change. But the prayer of the devotees is simply that, may I always remember you, Krishna. May I always have the association of your devotees. May I always be able to chant your holy name. That is the prayer of pure devotion. Right? And yes, sometimes we may come under the influence of these darker energies. Sometimes we may be more free. But we are going on with our life of devotion. Right? We are going, that is our program. And we follow some basics, so following these regulative principles, that is the basics, right? And I really appreciate how Gurudev framed them, that these are human principles. They're not Vaishnava principles. They're still part of the relative plane. Yes, they help us to stay clean and stay upright as good human beings. And yes, that creates a platform to support our life of devotion, but it's not devotion itself. Right? There are so many other principles that come into play, that are Vaishnava principles, like humility, tolerance, respect, and all these things, So yeah, we have to keep some perspective, right? We don't want to be too afraid of Kali, And if we are afraid, then we can also capitalize on that and say, oh, Krishna, Gurudev, please protect me. Please save me, I'm in trouble.
Srila Gurudev says Krishna is giving us all the time the opportunity, It's like the perfect age
Right.
at the same time.
Right. Right. Is that helpful, Shreya?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I have a lot of, yeah, helpful.
Anyone else want to add anything? Very close. I feel like there's a lot more that should be said. Not coming out.
In Christianity, they incite fear for
Hmm.
people to.
Right. Right.
Out of fear, they are going to God,
Right. Right.
but that the right way to
Right.
approach the Lord.
Right.
Only when you are afraid of dying or afraid of losing your fortune, your health, your family, or anything.
Yes. Yes.
So we gotta have faith in the Lord's protection, right?
Mm.
That's one of the things that are
I know you're going.
embracing the Lord's guardianship, right?
Right.
But then some people think that that means nothing bad will happen, but that, and then they're like, oh, they
Yeah.
lose faith because something
Yeah.
bad happened. But it just means He'll always keep us thinking of Him.
Mm. Yeah, what is real protection? You know, to be free from illusion, actually, and to remember the Lord. That
You'll make
is.
sure we remember him. That's right. That's the thing. One way or another.
Like Queen Kunti prayed for bad things,
Mm.
and she would remember Him.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's the point, whether we are just serving the Lord because we are just afraid that we're going to die or we are in this world.
But that's not a bad thing, right?
No,
That's just a
no,
beginner
that's the
level.
beginning,
Yeah,
right.
it's the beginning. Yeah.
That will open the door to something more.
Right. Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is that type of the afflicted who come
Yes.
to pray to the Lord.
Yes.
There are 4 types. Which ones are the afflicted?
It's arta, means seeking wealth or gain. Artatika means suffering. Arto tatika, jigyasa, curious. And jnani, the enlightened, wise person. So the Lord is so merciful. For whatever reason, someone's approaching Him. But I know that's not where Shreyas was coming from.
No,
It's coming
of course
from a
not.
higher angle. But it's tricky, especially like with the background that you're coming from. This is like a totally new worldview, right?
I wouldn't say new.
No, huh?
New would be a wrong word.
Okay.
Uh,
Little different angle, perhaps, or not so much.
I wouldn't say different as well, because I
Okay.
would say a lot of people in this end do not know anything of that end. I
Right,
have to be honest.
right.
And they categorize everything easily, but which is fine. Which is not my point. Which has nothing to do with me. but I see a lot of overlapping undertones a lot.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
I think it's all branches from one epicenter. Inevitably, you follow against, but it does. And I think goodness and kindness prevails everywhere.
Mm.
So I think I see a lot of overtones of in terms of teachings or in
Okay.
terms of practice or action. Or so yeah, I think for me it's more strengthening.
Okay, it's encouraging
than
what you
advising.
knew, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, in our mission, there are few things which are very exclusive to our mission, which is the beauty of our mission.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't know, because I know like there are so many different aspects, but like some types of Hinduism, they will focus more on a kind of like saguna approach, and this concept of the nirguna, they don't go into that. But yeah, any line of thought that's focused on bhakti, then they will have that view.
And I see
So.
everything as a journey.
Mm-hmm.
To be a devil's advocate, I think many people in Krishna consciousness would also step through the Sarguna plane and then walk towards.
Well, sure, yeah, of course, yeah. No, we don't pretend that we are in the nirvana plane, of course. It's simply we're appreciating the ideal, right, and
I remember
principles.
Didi was saying one example, one incident in Navadvip where a very close associate of maybe Govind Maharaj, Maharaj asked him, so what do you want in life, or what are you craving for? And the poor fellow said, a Toyota car.
Yeah, I know who Didi's talking about. Yeah.
So if you aim to seek what you aim to seek,
Yeah.
you can be a good Christian and still go there.
Yeah,
And you can be in here and then still be entangled with
for sure, yeah.
things which keep you
Mm-hmm.
here. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I always see this as a personal sadhana. I always have this continuous conundrum in my head where I see it's very important to have the right association, which I feel it is primitive, it's pivotal, it's vital. But what is right association? Like, how do you classify, or I mean, how can you tell? Because I don't want to say I see, but I mean, but sometimes you're like, is this good for my spiritual growth? And then I circle back that maybe, for me personally, or for the higher cause, it's more your internal sadhana, because you have no control of the environment. I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm not saying it's entirely conducive all the time. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I mean, I may be the wrong environment for someone else as well. So, yeah. But I mean, then I think, okay, so for me, maybe being internally conscious is more, because Prabhupada says, be conscious first and then be Krishna conscious.
Mm-hmm.
So I always have this. So that's why I say I love it when you guys come here, because then there's a fresh boost of, as we mentioned yesterday, a boost of energy, freshness in ideas. We're away from that mundane frogs in one well kind of, which tends to happen many times when you're in. Yeah, I think I should stop talking.
I mean, the thing is, we're all human, and if you spend a long time with anyone, then you'll see them picking their nose and doing all kinds of things, And I would say that those who are aspiring for the same ideal, and there's one place in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu where Rupa Goswami he says what type of association should we aspire for. Sajatiya yashaye snigde sadhu sangha satoverte. It says literally what it says is those who have the same type of affection, sneha, for the Lord. And he says, and little higher, right? So, means those who are following the same ideal of life as ourselves, aspiring for that, cultivating that, and little superior to ourselves. Now, the reality is that we may not always be able to have association where we feel someone is categorically higher than myself, right? That may be something rare. That may be something we only have once in our lifetime, you know. But at least we can, of course, we try to have that. But if we cannot, then at least we try to have association with those who are cultivating the same ideals as ourselves. But then we, as you said, there's also this interplay with our own inner conviction and our own individual practice. And so it's our duty to find a point of connection where, to the maximum degree, we're only seeing the good aspect of those practitioners, right? Try to find a way to relate with them so that I'm not seeing the negative aspect, right? And try to see how we can focus on the brighter aspect, right? Find a different way of relating with them, right? So that can be a challenge, of course, but that is what we have to do to the best of our ability. And we can take inspiration from others and see, oh, how does this person relate with someone else? They're only seeing their bright side, right? Everyone has their bright side and their inspired side and their uninspired side, right? And so how can I relate with those around me so that I'm only seeing their inspired side? And I'm seeing how there are others who are having that type of interaction with them, right? So, and then also another thing that comes in is Paramahamsa Dharma, the swan taking the milk, you know, try to take the good and avoid the bad, right? Appreciate, focus in. But then you also take inspiration from elsewhere, you know, from hearing from our gurus. You know, you can have your own, our immediate environment is also providing like a support and a structure. It may or may not be a source of great inspiration, but it can be a support system that's helping us stay on track. But then we will have other sources of inspiration, right? We're by tuning in or, reading or whatever it may be, right? We find some other source of inspiration. Watching the videos of our gurus, that's always so uplifting, for myself, just as an example. So I don't know if that fully addresses what you're thinking of, but maybe partially. But, I think what Uma said yesterday is nice as well, that we may want to change our association sometimes. We can visit other places and get some new perspective and come back with renewed vision. That may be something to consider as well. And then ultimately it always comes back to ourselves, right? To try to be that ourselves, right? Try to, what we want to see, to be that ourselves. We always have that opportunity. Like in my own life, I can say like the association that I had with Srila Govinda Maharaj, like meeting a Vaishnava of that caliber, that's not going to happen again in this lifetime, and so that's something that I draw upon it. It's like an inner reserve within my heart. Like that's the type of association I would like to have every day of my life, this life, next life, the life after. But unfortunately, that's just not possible. And so I'm drawing upon that, drinking from that well in other ways, by remembering him, listening to his talks and trying to serve him still in my life, day by day. Because ultimately association, what it really means in a practical sense is where we're putting our faith, right? We can go out and mix with lots of people in different places, but that's not association. Association means where you are investing your faith, right? And so we may be physically in one environment, but we're actually living with our guru, you know. We're living with the great souls. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he commented once, you know, I am always at the feet of, he mentioned like these great associates of Mahaprabhu. He was mentioning actually some controversy. Some persons were criticizing him in another institution, and he said, "Oh, that doesn't bother me. I'm always living at the feet of, you know, Swarup Damodar, you know, Ramananda Rai, you know, like I'm always living there. You know, what is this? You know, it's all very distant, very remote. You know, I'm always living there." And so, you know, to try to find that inner connection, you know, with you know, we always need association, but how is that association present in our life? It may not be necessarily physical, but we're feeling the connection of higher Vaishnavas in the world of consciousness, you know, remembering the words of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, remembering Saraswati Thakur, Srila Govinda Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, all these things, all these great persons. And whenever you can have association with those who give you deeper inspiration, try to collect as much as you can, right? And hold that and keep that your point of reference.
And how do you identify such?
How do I identify?
Such association. So
well, if you feel that they are, it's getting very late. If anyone needs to go, please feel free.
We can talk outside if we can close.
Well, I'll just finish this part and then we'll close. On one level, you can say by seeing that they are following the principles that you are also trying to follow, according to your conception, what is the proper way to practice and represent the message, that they are adhering to that properly and better than myself. And then there will also be some heart resonance as well. That Gurudev also talked about that. You may see someone is superior to you in every way, but there may not be a heart connection. So that is also mentioned in scripture, Manu Samhita. Hridyayena byanugyato. The heart knows. You know, that there's validation for our own feeling, which I find very encouraging. You know. So yes, in this way you can identify, oh, this is someone who I'm, you know, very much inspired by, I try to model myself after. You know. And usually Krishna has someone, you know, in my own, he's not usually so cruel. There may be some interim period, but in my life I've always found there's been at least one person who is a very good friend or mentor, you know. Of course, it has changed, you know. Some people died, you know. Some people went away. Some people, you know, different things have happened. Yeah. But there's always, in almost every phase of my life, I've always felt like Krishna and my guru, they've given me someone, you know, because otherwise it's very, very, very hard actually. So. And then you cultivate that. You focus on, like, what's your spear, you know, of inspiration, right? And you focus on, that's your point of reference day by day. Maybe it may not always be physically around you, but you're keeping contact with that all the time. And that's your inner spring, you know, that you drink from. Okay, we'll stop here because it's getting a little late. Jai Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Should we chant or should we stop there? Yeah?
Chant.
Hare Nama Krishna Jadavaya Namaha.
Hare Nama Krishna Jadavaya Namaha.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudana.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudana.
Giri Hari Gopinatha Madana Mohana.
Giri Hari Gopinatha Madana Mohana.
नाम संकीर्तन की
जय।
रोज